Hey folks, Nathan here from the Star Wars Timeline Gold, Star Wars Beyond the Films, and the Star Wars gaming podcast Cloud City Casino, which you can find at StarWarsReport.com, bringing you a look at Wave 14 of the X-Wing Miniatures game for Fantasy Flight Games. This is the TIE Reaper expansion pack. Now, I went into some detail on our one for Saw's Renegades, which is the one right before this one in the playlist, about the changes between First Edition and Second Edition in terms of the products that we're getting. This is another of these weird sort of limbo packages because our TIE Reaper is going to come with everything you need for the first edition of the game, but also components for Star Wars X-Wing Second Edition. Kind of like getting a conversion kit inside the same box where you're getting the original item for First Edition. This is a $30 item as opposed to Saw's Renegades, which was $40. You are getting a little bit less here. We have a First Edition rules supplement, okay, as you would expect. We also have a Second Edition components list that also includes the same intro to the Second Edition, information about where to find more info and how to put the maneuver dials together that I mentioned back in the Saw's Renegade content overview video. This is our mini, right? This is the TIE Reaper, of course, from Rogue One. Not my favorite design, but it works well as a miniature. Would have been nice to maybe have a little bit more red here to go with what we see in the images, but whatever. Notice here, though, for the regular edition, or the First Edition, it is a regular-sized ship. Small base, small pegs, which means a hole for a small peg. Well, this ship is considered a medium-sized ship for the purposes of Second Edition, so it has one of those medium-sized bases, again, that's bigger than a regular size for First Edition, but smaller than the large size of the First Edition that you would see on something like the U-Wing. But notice, in order to accommodate this for both versions of the game, you have a new type of base for Second Edition, the same type of large-sized or epic-sized prong here, post here, for the bottom part of the post, or the stand, whatever you want to call it, the pegs. But the top one is kind of conical, almost. So even though it starts at the bottom, the same diameter as what we would see for a large-sized one, or a medium-sized one in Second Edition, the top of it narrows to a point where it fits into the plug for a small-sized one from the First Edition. So that is a way that they're managing the fact that sometimes we're going to see classifications between regular and large, or small and large, become classifications between, say, small and medium, with some things moving from one to the other. I think that's actually kind of a cool way for them to go about doing this. As with the U-Wing, we have our two different maneuver dials, our First Edition style of maneuver dial, where we just turn it, see the maneuver we want through the little hole, the design is on the front, there's nothing on the back, versus our Second Edition type of maneuver dial, which again has the design on the back with the title, and the front is actually all of our maneuvers at once, and we're actually going to hold it with the opening at the bottom, and turn it to match up the little marker with whatever we want to use. Like, say, the 0 that doesn't go anywhere, which I call the point, because instead of being an arrow, it's basically a dot. Okay, so we have that for the TIE Reaper as well. We have our ship tokens, again, size-wise, being different between First Edition and Second because the size classification of the ship changes. You notice some of the information on it changing, of course. Also, again, with the difference in how they're going to handle firing arcs, right? Where you're going to do the most damage versus still within the arc versus originally just having the one arc. We have 2 of those because we have 4 pilots total for ship cards. I think I sometimes call them pilot cards, but the ship cards. And speaking of the ship cards, we have them for 4 different pilots, as I said, for either version. So we have our ones in the style of First Edition over here for Major Vermeil, Captain Feroff, Vizier, and Scarif-based pilot. On this side, same pilots, only this time in the Second Edition style with the changes made, like the upgrade icon bar not being there and so forth for the Second Edition. Again, you're going to be using that Squad Builder app a lot. We then have condition cards, and this is actually our first time seeing a condition card for Second Edition because the package for the Saw's Renegades didn't have one. So we have our small type of card here for optimized prototype for First Edition with the token. But then to go along with it for Second Edition, we have a full-sized optimized prototype condition card. Right? So They're going basically to full-size cards for pretty much everything for 2nd edition. Upgrade cards being the most noticeable in that regard. Before we look at upgrade cards, let's look at tokens. We do have a Dial ID token, 2 shield tokens, 2 jam tokens, a critical hit token, a stress token, an evade token, and a focus token, as one might expect for a ship of this size and this particular type. As for our upgrade cards, we have some that are for 2nd edition that mirror ones that we've already seen repeatedly for 1st edition, but which don't have a corresponding one in this set for the 1st edition, like Swarm Tactics, for example. We also do see some that actually do carry over from 1st edition to 2nd with different versions of the cards, albeit not necessarily in the same numbers. So on our 1st edition side, the ones that have no 2nd edition equivalent in this set, we have Decoy, Multispectral Camouflage, Advanced Ailerons, and 2 copies of Systems Officer. For 2nd edition, we have 2 copies of Juke and 2 copies of Swarm Tactics. Then we get into the ones that do have kind of a mirror, but not in the same numbers. We have Director Krennic for 1st edition and for 2nd, Death Troopers, 2nd and 1st edition as well, 1 ISB Slicer for 1st edition, 2 of them for 2nd, and 2 Tactical Officers for both 2nd edition and 1st edition. And again, the information like the squad points are all going to be handled by the Squad Builder app, so a lot of the numbers, for instance, that we see on upgrade cards over here, or our ship cards, you're not going to see for 2nd edition because that's all handled with the online or app-based Squad Builder, where you're going to use theirs rather than necessarily using one that a fan has created. So again, if you're trying to play a bit more with the Empire in X-Wing, you want to bring a TIE Reaper in, you've got kind of a combo pack here of the TIE Reaper with everything you need for the 1st edition, but also the equivalent of a conversion kit to help you bring this TIE Reaper eventually into the X-Wing 2nd edition when it launches in September. And I gotta figure, based on what we're seeing here and what we saw with Saw's Renegades, this is basically the type of stuff we should expect to see in those big conversion kits to help us convert all previous ships from the different factions, which are divided up a little bit differently now, but convert all those previous Rebel, Imperial, and Scum and Villainy ships into their 2nd edition versions that'll launch alongside the 2nd edition of the game in September. We kind of know a little bit more now thanks to the fact that we finally see some 2nd edition content in the hands of the average consumer, not just playtesters. We'll be back with more X-Wing Miniatures game content as more gets released as we're heading into the 2nd edition later this year.